Hello Course 3 students, and welcome to Lesson 4 of Unit 1. Within this lesson, what we're going to be doing is comparing and ordering integers. So those are going to be either positive or negative. And I can evaluate expressions containing absolute values. So we'll go through a few vocab words as we go throughout, but we have 3 examples on comparing and ordering integers, and 1 example on your absolute value. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of these examples. So let's go through some definitions and some explanations. And so the first part of the textbook was talking about different kinds of scores. So sometimes when you play different types of games, such as golf or other games, you actually get to subtract, or you have negative points when you get because you're wanting to try and get the lowest amount of points. And so that's why they're saying these scores can be written as integers. Integers are the set of whole numbers and their opposites. Opposites or additive inverses are numbers that are the same distance from 0 but are on opposite sides of the number line. So if I wrote out a number line here, all right, so I have 0, maybe I have 1, 2, I have a -1, a -2. An opposite or an additive inverse of something like 2 would be then the same distance away from 0 but on the other side. So the distance from 0 is 1, 2. So if I wanted to go the other direction, 1, 2, its additive inverse or its opposite is then the negative version of that number, -2. Expressed are integers. The scores relative to par are Fred, Trevor, Monique, and Julie. So that's when they're talking about your golf rules. So most holes will have I think it's by par. I'm not a good golfer. I don't know the rules. But I think each golf course has like, okay, so you're at hole 3, and it has a par of 3. That means that you should be able to get it in the hole in 3 different swings. If you're able to get it in only 2, then you get a negative number, or a score of a -1. If you were able to get it in the 3, you get a score of 0. Maybe it took you 5, though. You're going to get a score of 2. And so that's kind of how that goes. So let's look at some examples on here. So example 1, I don't know why it still has the box around here. This is another sports application. So we're going to start taking a look at these scores on here, and we're going to rate their scores. So we're going to use the less than, a greater than, or an equal sign to solve out these problems. I'm just fixing some of this. So we've got to compare Trevor and Julie's score. So Trevor has a score of 3 and Julie has a score of -2. So if I were to draw out a number line, and I think I'm going to use this number line just as a reference for your other example as well. So let's add in some numbers. I'll maybe put 0 here. Again, your number line can stretch as far or not as far as you want, but I would suggest that having the numbers on here that are representing the problem will be very helpful. I'm not going to go all the way to like 100 or something, but you could if you wanted to sit there and take a lot of time to do it. Alrighty, so on my number line, you've got 0. Anything to the right is positive, anything to the left is negative. And so we want to compare 3 and -2. So let's write 3 and then let's write -2. Well, we want to use a greater than, less than, or equal to sign. If I'm looking at here, the numbers towards the right get bigger. So they are larger. And numbers to the left of the 0 are smaller. So in this case, you've got a 3, which is on the larger side, and a -2, which is on the smaller side. So your 3, or your positive 3, is going to be larger. Remember, when you get that symbol, you want the alligator to eat the other side. Remember when you're probably in like 2nd grade and learned that. So I'm going to want a greater than sign. All right, and then B. It says list the golfers in order from lowest score to the highest score. So we're going to take a look at then these scores. I'm going to use look at this number line that I used again. So understanding that, you know, everything to the right of 0 continues to get larger, and everything to the left of 0, the further you get down, the smaller it goes. So we've got -5, we've got 3, we've got 4, we've got -2. We want the smallest or the lowest score. So if we're using this same trend, the next thing after -4 would be -5. And so we've got -5, 3, 4, and -2. -5 then is my smallest amount on my list. And then the next one up then, as you move up towards the right, that's going to show you bigger. So then the next thing I see on here is -2. As we continue on down this line, we run into 3 then, and then we will run into 4. And here is my order from the lowest score to the highest score. Remember, in golf you want to have the lowest score, so that's showing me, you know, probably who won, had a -5, who lost had a score of 4. A pretty tight game. All right, so let's also continue with that ordering of integers. So it says write the integers 7, -4, and 3 in order from least to greatest. Well, one thing that I noticed by looking at these points is that, hold on just a second. So what I noticed from these is I've got 2 positive numbers. 7 is positive and 3 is positive, and I have 1 negative. So I already know that my negative is going to be smaller because that's to the left of the 0. So that's going to be my first one. From there, then I got to think which bigger than 3 or 7. 3 is bigger, and then 7. So ordering them from the smallest to greatest, or least to greatest. All right, so then example 3. Example 3 is talking about that additive inverse. So let's go back and look at that note. So when we were talking about the additive inverse, it's your opposite. So it has to be the same distance away from 0 on the number line. Or you can think of it as its positive and negative version. So when I was giving that example of 2, well, 2 is to the right 2 places from 0, and then -2 is 2 places to the left from 0. So they are considered opposites or additive inverses. And so if I wanted to find the same here, let's think about 8. We'll do this one on a number line. I'm going to go up by 2s just to make it easier. 2, 4, 6, 8, -2, -4, -6, -8. Well, if I want to get to 8, which is then 8 places away from 0 to the right, 2, 4, 6, 8, its opposite then is also going to be 8 away from the 0, but to the left. 2, 4, 6, 8. So your additive inverse is -8. So then, let's think about 15. In this case, if I'm not drawing out a number line, okay, again, basically it's your positive and then your negative version. So my additive inverse for this is 15. Another thing to think about when you have your additive inverse, basically what it means is if you added these 2 numbers up, you're going to get an answer of 0. 8 plus a -8 is 0. -15 plus 15 gives me 0. So then the big question is, what's the additive inverse of 0? There's none. I guess you could say 0 or none. Because how far away is 0 from 0? 0. 0? I guess that's what I would write. I don't know what else you would write. You could say none. I would take that as an answer too. Or not possible. You didn't even leave 0, so how could you have an inverse? You can't ever have a -0. And I think that's where a few of you might think you can. But 0 is neither positive or negative. It means nothing. So how can you add a negative value to it or even a positive value to it? And so you can't just say -0. It's not possible. You could say just 0 itself. None or not possible. Alrighty, and so the last part we need to talk about is your absolute value. A number's absolute value is its distance from 0 on a number line. This is very important. Okay, so if you were to describe an absolute value, it is its distance away from 0 on a number line. So just like we were talking about those additive inverses, they are then, if it's 8, it's 8 away from 0 towards the right, but its additive inverse then will be 8 from the left of 0, and that'll be negative 8. So absolute value is just the distance away from 0. And what happens with this is distance can never be negative. You can go backwards in distance, but if you've ever worn a pedometer or if you have like a fancy, Fitbit or Apple Watch, it never subtracts your distance away, even if you go backwards. If you start walking backwards, you're still moving forward in a sense. You haven't lost that distance. And so that's why it's always going to be positive. So then it says absolute value is always positive or 0 because distance cannot be negative, like I was saying. The distance value of negative 4 is written as so. So you have kind of these two lines and then the negative 4 inside. Additive inverses have the same absolute value. So basically, I also like to use the analogy, and I don't remember if I talked to you guys or if it was my algebra students, of a shower. So for my absolute value, kind of think, okay, here's your shower walls. Maybe there's a little person in here taking a shower. Okay. If you go into a shower and you go in clean, you're always going to come out clean. You go into a shower and you're dirty, you're going to come out clean as well. So here's what I say. If you go in clean, like I said, clean meaning positive, you're going to come out clean. If you go in being negative or dirty, you're still going to come out clean. So everything as an absolute value is always positive because that distance piece, because you can never go negative. Again, it's just that distance away from 0. So let's look at some examples. And I wrote these with my pen already just because it's kind of hard to type in your absolute values. So it says simplify absolute value expressions. Simplify each expression. So simplifying can also mean solving or just making it look simpler to solve out. So if we are going to take our absolute value of negative 9, if we think of a number line, I'm going to draw out a number line. 0, negative 1. We're going to use negatives because my problem has a negative. I got quite a bit to go though. 6, 7. All right, so I have a negative 9, the absolute value of negative 9. So that means how many distances away from 0 it is it? And I'd count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Remember, distance is never negative, so it's 9. Plus then, if I wanted my distance from 7, 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So now I'd have 9 plus 7. 9 plus 7 gives me 16. All right. Now for 20, we've got an operation within the actual absolute value bars. So this is a lot like then parentheses when you're doing your order of operations. And so you'd want to do whatever is in here, if you can solve it out, that is. Sometimes it'll just be x, or, like x plus 3, but we can't. That's something for next year, I'm pretty sure. So we need to solve out the inside part first. Well, 20 minus 20 is 0. Absolute value of 0. How far away is 0 from 0? This is the same question we had before. I guess you could say 0 or not possible or no answer. That would be fine too, because you can't actually, you didn't leave 0. So that is your absolute values. If you have any questions about this lesson, please let me know. I know I forgot the code word on the other one, but your code word for this one is blue. B-L-U-E. All right. I will check you guys then, but you can always reach out to me during office hours. Remember, Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 1:30 to 2:30. Things will probably change once we get into hybrid and we learn a little bit more. But if you have questions, just email me and I will be glad to help you. Have a great day, and I will see you the next time. Bye.